Welcome to the CDG BizCast. I'm your host, Christian Gonzalez, co-owner of Creativity Design Group, a digital marketing firm in Houston, Texas. Today, we'll be interviewing Swale Finley, owner of Swale Interiors Painting, and he is going to discuss with us his recent experience with a Geek Squad email scam. These email scams come in different forms. You see them pretending to be all sorts of different companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, and your recent experience was with a Geek Squad scam email. Please tell me more about this Geek Squad scam email and what it is exactly.
Well, Christian, I own a residential painting company located here in Houston, Texas. And through the years, I've been plagued with a fair amount of scams. But this particular one that we're going to be discussing tonight really caught me off guard. What it was, I received an email several weeks ago stating that my yearly membership fee of $350 was being automatically renewed with the Geek Squad, which is a company that's located inside Best Buy. And with this message in the email, it said, if you choose to cancel the renewal, please call this number. Now, without thinking the matter through, I responded with that phone call. Complain and cancel that renewal. My first mistake was I panicked. I had lost logical reasoning. If I just thought the situation through before calling, I would have remembered that I've never contacted the Geek Squad in the past for anything. Well, I made the phone call, and a fellow answered who had a very distinct East Indian accent. I told him that I did not want to renew any contract. He asked me for the renewal number that was listed on the email that I'd received. I gave him that number over the phone, which now, in retrospect, I gave him the info he wanted so he could locate my personal data of whatever they were working with. He asked me if I was in front of my computer. I told him no, but if you'll just give me a minute, I could do that. Once I was sitting in front of my computer, he gave me a name to plug into the information bar there at the top on my computer. I responded, put in the information. Then he asked me if a code had popped up on the computer. I said yes, and he said, please give me that code number. I said, look, I just want to cancel this renewal. He said that I would need to fill out all the detailed questionnaire, but I stupidly started to answer all of his questions, and as I'm looking over this file that had opened up, they wanted me to give my first, middle, last name, what bank I banked at, but they did not ask me for my bank numbers. At that point, I froze. I stopped. I knew that I was in potential trouble, and I decided to hang up. Someone tried to call me back over the next 30 minutes about 3 different times from the same number. I was sure that they were trying to reach me again. I did not pick up. I immediately decided to go to my bank to report the problem. When I met with my banker, she said, well, did you give this company and this person any real personal banking information like all of your numbers? And I said, no. Then she said, well, you're probably okay. And she asked me if I had still, if I brought that number with me that I'd called. And I pulled it up on my phone. And so the banker called. And once this guy answered, she had the phone on speaker. And I could tell it was the same guy. He started in with the same script. And she asked him several information questions about how she could sign up for the Geek Squad. All of a sudden, the phone went dead. the guy hung up. My banker said that he had discovered that a bank was calling. That's the reason he hung up. Well, I talked with my banker for a while. She decided I probably hadn't done anything too damaging, and at this point, we didn't need to cancel my bank account. And I left the bank. And then next I decided, well, maybe I should just go over to Best Buy and talk to a representative with the Geek Squad. When I reached the guys there at the Geek Squad, I showed him the email that had the Geek Squad logo located on it. The Geek Squad guy somewhat laughed and he said, "Look, you are literally the third person that's walked in the door today that has shown me the same scam, and I've told everybody, don't open it up, don't contact these people. It's definitely a scam. It is not the Geek Squad." He suggested that I totally clean my computer and start from scratch. At that point, I decided to drive on home. When I reached the house, I called Christian and told him about the mess that I think possibly I had created. And Christian, you give such a great explanation. What did you suggest that we do at that time?
I actually suggested that we reformat your computer and reinstall Windows. I suggest that you buy a flash drive for saving your most important files now, and then getting a portable hard drive so you could have backups running in real time 24/7 after we reinstall Windows and got your computer clean.
Right. Well, you and I discussed that possibility. I actually went over to Best Buy and purchased those two items that you had suggested. Then once I got home, I thought about it and I thought, well, I've just spent $100. Let me give Christian a call back and let's discuss this a little further about what we can really do here. And your suggestion was that you, from your office, you have a personal hookup that you can connect up with my computer, and you decided to really dig in to the interior of my computer and see if you could locate any potential damage that these guys had potentially downloaded on my computer. And so what did you discover?
So I connected into your computer using a program similar to TeamViewer, and I discovered that the remote access program that the scammers had you download was ConnectWise. So I went in and I looked into all the really deep folders where programs leave their little traces of residue, I guess you could say. When you install programs, they don't install into just one location. There's the program files folder on your computer where all your programs are located by default, but that's not the only place where they leave files. They leave traces in several different hidden folders across your computer, even embedded in system directories. So I went and dug deep into said folders, and I found that ConnectWise had embedded itself into a hidden directory that most people would not even know where to look. In fact, the average computer user wouldn't even know that this directory existed. I believe it was in program data, or something like that, a hidden folder. So I went in, I scrubbed it clean, then I looked into your services menu. I saw that ConnectWise was also active in the services, and I turned it off. Sadly, you can't delete services out of the service menu, but you can disable them. So I made sure to scrub your computer of any software they installed, because here's the thing, and many listeners need to understand that when you allow scammers into your computer and you don't take the software off of your computer, they may have turned on unattended access where they can sign into your computer and go in any time that they please and take whatever they want. So it's important to make sure that your computer is checked out. If you don't want to go through the steps or go through the lengthy process of reformatting and reinstalling Windows, then at least have somebody check and make sure that your computer is free of the software. But a reformat and a reinstallation of Windows is highly recommended in some cases because you don't know how deep the software has embedded into your system.
Correct. Now, for me, you asked me if I could locate the computer disk that had the Windows on it when I had originally purchased the computer system, and sadly I was not able to locate it, and so that was not an option of something that we could do. What I did do is I went in, the first thing is I changed my access code to get into my computer, and then we decided, you and I talking about it, that possibly what you had done was enough information removal from what these guys had downloaded that it was going to take care of my immediate problem. And this is something that I've been watching on a daily basis on my computer.
You took all the right steps. We were able to save you a bunch of time by just simply making sure that all the software was removed from your computer, because a reinstallation of Windows would have taken a long time, and you might have had to go at least an hour or two without your computer if that were the case. So what I would like all my listeners to understand is, when you feel that your system may have been potentially hijacked, go ahead and reformat and reinstall Windows just to make extra sure that your computer is clean of this software. Swale, in your case, the reason why we didn't do that is because you did not provide the scammers with any personal information, and you don't store any of your personal information or any important passwords on your computer where they could easily get. And on top of that, you didn't have any files that they could steal from you that would put any of your personal information or your identity at risk. So we just decided the best thing to do was to scrub your computer clean of the ConnectWise remote control software.
Right. And then also, you had asked me about my banking situation and if I did any of my banking online with my computer, and I said no. What I do use is my phone, but I just do that on my phone. I've never done any of my collection of banking data on my computer system. You went in, checked all of the files that you could find, and we got into my bank file and discovered that yes, true, I had never done that in the past. So we wanted to make sure that that was the case.
Right. Now I want to go back to discussing the initial start of the scam, because I want to talk about some red flags to look for that'll help make sure that others out there don't fall for this. Now, the first thing you'll want to do is, if you get an email from any of the companies that I mentioned, not just Geek Squad, but any of these tech companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and they're claiming that they owe you a refund or that they billed your account a certain amount of money that you didn't even spend, go ahead and just write it off as a scam, because they will never contact you saying that. On top of that, look at the email address that the email came from. If it is not at Microsoft.com, at GeekSquad.com, if it says at Gmail.com, at iCloud.com, or something really long and cryptic, you can automatically write this off as a scam. It's not real. They did not take any money from you. They did not bill your account. They're just trying to trick you into giving them money, and we're going to explain that in detail in just a second. What I wanted to ask you, Swale, was, aside from what the Geek Squad and the bank told you, what tipped you off personally that this was a scam up front?
Well, it was when I opened the email and I'm reading over this that I was being automatically renewed on a yearly basis and my renewal fee was up. That's what I started concentrating on, and the scammer had captured my thought to concentrate on that, and they were showing a picture of the logo, the real logo of the Geek Squad. But if I had enough computer information, as you do, Christian, to read over the top of the situation and really read it closely where it came from, I would have discovered that it was not a valid situation.
Right, because scammers will make these emails. They will put the logo of the real company on there. They'll attach a fake invoice that they design as a PDF file explaining how much they supposedly charged you, and your email included one of those invoices too.
Well, here's another thing that was really a giveaway from them that I wasn't registering on, is when we first made the contact and I opened up that file on my computer and I started filling out this questionnaire situation. Originally in the email it stated that my renewal was going to be $350. And so this guy that I was talking with, he said, well, look, we're getting ready to put this money back into your bank account. Why don't you go ahead and just register it as $499. Well, that's when it really hit me that these guys are obviously a scam, and that's when I hung up the phone.
Right. And then what scammers will do, and you experience this as well during this whole ordeal, is that when you hang up on them, they will call you back relentlessly, hoping you'll answer again, because they're hoping that you'll give in.
Right, of which I did not.
Right. You did the right things. You instead went to the bank and to Geek Squad, and they cleared the whole mess up for you. They cleared the whole situation up for you and told you what was really going on. Chances are the scammer was going to tell you if you had let it progress any further. Well, actually, this is what would have happened. Let's say you did let them into your bank account. They would have asked you to open Google Chrome, sign into your bank account, and then they would see your balance in your account, right?
Right, that's what the guy told me. He said, we need all this. He said, now that you're starting to give us the information, of course, I didn't finish, thank God, filling out all the information. But what they were going to do with the next step, as Christian just said, they were going to want me to go online on the computer and check my bank account at that moment to make sure that the funds were returned to my bank account.
Right.
And once again, this was all in the last few moments just before I hung.
What would have happened should that have occurred would be they would have used a special tool within Google Chrome. It's called the developer tools, and they would have edited the HTML, which is the code that generates a web page. They would have edited your bank page temporarily to make it look like that they sent you money. Where it shows that they credited you, they would have actually put an amount larger than what they said they owed you. Then they would have made this outright ludicrous claim that, oh, we sent you too much money. We sent you too much money. I'm going to lose my job. They're going to start putting on the waterworks. They'll even pretend like they're crying sometimes. They're going to say, you need to send me back the difference of extra money that we sent you. We need you to go to the store, buy us gift cards in the amount of the difference, and mail them to us. That is what was going to happen next. They would have never sent you any money. It's just a trick to get you into buying them gift cards.
Right. Well, thank goodness I never went that far. And once I talked to my banker, I was able to reassure her that I had not done that situation on my computer system. That's when she stated, well, I think you're safe, and at this point we don't need to cancel and give you, a new routing number and a new bank number.
Right, that's the most important part. And going back to the gift card deal, the reason why scammers ask for gift cards is because they are not traceable. They will never try to take money out of your account because it can be traced back. They always ask for gift cards because these can't be traced back to your location. They want to make sure that once you send them the money, you have no way of recovering it, and that they can pocket it very easily. And it's also important to remember, if any organization calls you, especially if it's a government organization, because there are scams related to this too, such as the IRS and the Social Security Administration, if anybody asks you to pay in gift cards, you can automatically write that off as a scam, because no legitimate company, no legitimate organization will ask you for payment with gift cards.
Exactly. I've not experienced that before. But now this is not on the topic of the Geek Squad scam scenario, but I've actually been going through another scam that, if you would like to talk about that, which is something over the phone where my phone would ring. This did happen today, and this was the sixth time that it's happened. But my phone rang today, and when I looked at the code for the name, it said U of H, MD Anderson Hospital. And so I thought, well, that's strange, but I'd gotten it before. So I said hello, and there was a pause, and this guy answers, and the message was, we're a company where we found out that you were involved in an accident a little over 2 years ago. Is that correct? And so I said, well, no, I've never been in an accident. Well, they hung up. But in the past, I have kind of gone along with that, and I said, oh yeah, but I'm okay. Well, what they wanted to do was create a claim account situation, and this was a company that was supposedly going to refund me money, and help me out to claim and settle that accident situation, which of course is once again an absolute scam, and it was totally bogus.
Right. And I want to talk a little bit more about what you said at first about how the caller ID showed that it was with U of H and MD Anderson. Scammers utilize a technique called spoofing, which means they know how to mask their own phone number as any other phone number that they want. So that means that if they want to show up on the caller ID as a certain company, then they have this ability to go in and set the call to show up on the caller ID as a certain phone number that they want. That's called spoofing. They're pretending to be this number. They have this ability to hide their phone number and instead have the phone number of the company or organization they're impersonating show up on the caller ID instead. It's very scary because that just makes it look more legitimate, and it just encourages people to follow through with it even more.
Right. And actually, that wasn't the University of Houston. I'd made a mistake there. It was actually the University of Texas at MD Anderson Hospital.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, guys, everybody listening out there, sadly, there are so many scam situations that are occurring at this time. And whether it's on an email situation or a telephone, boy, we've got to watch out and be on your guard.
Right. What lessons have you learned personally from your experiences with these scams?
Well, Christian, I think the biggest one for me, number one that I've learned is, and the biggest mistake that I made to start off with, is I panicked. And what I suggest is don't panic. The moment that something comes in, whether it's a phone call or an email situation, just stop, pause, take a breath, really stop and analyze the problem before you take any action. And then one other thing I'd like to suggest is, if you do screw up like I did, call Christian. He gave me great suggestions, and once he had dug into my computer system, and we discovered over a period of 30 to 45 minutes of you correcting certain things that were embedded deep in my computer system, which I would have never known about. Then I went from high on panic to, oh my goodness, thank you, Christian. I'm feeling better, and I think my blood pressure probably just dropped 10 points.
Well, I would say is that I wouldn't say you screwed up, because these scams look very convincing and people do fall for them, sadly, all the time. But here's why I say you didn't screw up. Because you never gave into the scam. At one point you realized that it was a scam and you hung up rather than let the scammer poke around your bank account or let him convince you that you needed to buy gift cards to make the matter go away.
Yeah, I was very fortunate in the sense of I curbed my panic attack, so to speak, before I truly let it go way too far, and that would have been releasing, or for me to actually go online on my computer to contact my bank account.
Right.
I would have had no recourse at that point.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. They would have taken all your information. They would have had your routing. They would have been able to take as much money as they wanted. And I've seen this happen before because I watch a lot of different scam baiters on YouTube. And sadly, for some victims, they opened up their account not long after they had their interaction with their scammer, and they saw that several amounts were being deducted and going to an unknown source, and that unknown source was most likely their scammer. They were just helping themselves to as much money as they wanted out of their account.
Right. And let me share this with everybody. When I went to my banker and had a private meeting, within less than 1 hour of this whole debacle, my banker went into her computer system and could see that no funds had been withdrawn during that 1 hour period. And what she told me, she said, Swale, I don't feel at this point you need to worry, because I can assure you, if they had captured your bank account, it would have already been emptied.
That's right. They would have taken it all
you
right
would
away.
have had a huge amount deduction from your debit account.
Right. And it's also important to remember that scammers have no way of taking any money out of your account aside from stealing your bank account number. I'm talking about on the first interaction. When you show them your bank page, they can't just automatically take it out of your account just like that. You've got to give them your banking information or your credit card number, your debit card number before they can truly steal anything from your account.
Right. Well, my banker told me, she said, Swale, if you had on the computer gone in to check and plugged into your bank account online to check your banking situation, that would have given them the means to grab all of that data without you ever typing in your routing number and your account number.
And I want to add to that too. Some scammers use keyloggers, meaning that they are secretly stealing your username and your password as you type it in while they're connected to your computer. And this keylogger program just simply captures it and stores it in their computer secretly, and you would never know.
Right.
It's scary.
Right. Well, and one of the suggestions that you told me immediately when I told you what had happened, you said, change your password immediately.
Yes.
Do that right now while we're on the phone. And I did that to get into my computer.
Right. I would recommend changing as many passwords as possible if you know which ones are saved on your computer. You can save passwords in Google Chrome. Whichever ones you know are stored on your computer that you are sure 100% are there, those are the ones you're going to want to reset, especially if they pertain to accounts that hold deeply sensitive personal information.
Right. And while I was at the bank, the one thing I did do was change my code to get into my account that I use.
Right.
When I'm checking my bank balance or whatever on the phone.
Right.
And so we did do that. And then when I got home and talked with you, then we changed it on the code to get into my computer.
I know this must have been a very frightening experience for you at first, but the key to making sure that you get through this easily is to just remain calm. Do not panic. And that not only applies with these scams, but in life in general. The moment you start panicking about anything, then that's when you're not going to be able to function properly or think properly. You won't be able to get things done. You'll spend your whole day worried that something is just going to go wrong. It's important to stay as calm as possible during these types of situations to avoid any problems in the long run with other things that you're doing.
Great suggestion, Christian.
Nobody should burn all this energy panicking. And when you overthink things, I guarantee you, nothing is ever going to get done. When you overthink, you're going to start feeling sick to your stomach. The banker reassured to you that they did not steal any money out of your account, and that's a good thing. It's always good to have reassurance. But before you get said reassurance, make sure that you are in a relaxed state of mind first, or else you're just going to ruin yourself. You're going to make yourself sick.
Yes. I mean, I literally, that particular day, I went from extreme panic to, by that evening, after speaking with you and you going through my computer system and digging out a few things that you were able to correct, at that point, I relaxed. I felt things good. Things were going to be okay.
And that's what I like to hear. I'm just glad that the scam didn't progress to the point to where they were actually able to get a hold of your banking information and you were able to hang up on them once you realized that it was a scam. Too many people do not realize that. And I would like to close out this episode by recapping some red flags to look out for. Number 1, look at the email headers. Check to see if it comes from who they claim it's from. If it's from a Gmail, a Yahoo, an iCloud, something basic and some sort of free email like that, or if it comes from a completely different company other than said company, it's a scam. You can go ahead and just delete it and not worry about it. In fact, take it a step further and send it to spam. That way, your email filters will be able to detect these as they come in, even if they come from different addresses. Your spam filters will be able to send them away just like that, because it'll recognize a pattern of the type of emails that you're sending there.
Yes. And my situation was when I opened up that email, the first thing I saw was the Geek Squad logo, which I recognized immediately. So I felt a little assurance that this was valid. See, I wasn't triggering it, oh, I'm getting a scam here. No, this must be a scam. I didn't feel that because they used that logo, and that was their major hook. That's what I was concentrating on, and I wasn't looking at the potential for this is probably really a scam.
My advice to the listeners out there would be to make it a habit to check your email headers before you even read the body of the email. That way you don't get tipped off. Look at the little things first before you look at the big things. They put the logo nice and big to make it look real, but if you were to open this email and ignore the logo and instead look at the headers, you would have seen that it was not from Geek Squad. So everybody should make it a habit to check their email headers first before they even read the email or even give it the time of day.
Yes. Well, once again, just going back to the beginning of my whole scenario with this, it was when I opened up the email and I got the financial shock value of they're going to automatically reinstate me with this company. And I immediately started looking for the telephone number to call to cancel this, and that was my downfall. That was my downfall. I wasn't thinking about this as a potential scam. I was thinking about I've got to cancel this before they really renew.
And another piece of advice that I would like to give everybody is that if you did not have a subscription with the company that they claim they're rebilling your account for, it's a scam. These companies can't bill you for a subscription you never had.
Well, and Christian, you're absolutely correct. And once again, that was another one of my mistakes, because once I had hung up from this guy and started really thinking about, well, what the heck just happened? That's when it dawned on me, wait a minute, I've never bought or signed up or gotten anything from the Geek Squad. And so that, in its sense, if I would have really just stopped when I first opened up the email and thought about it, I would have seen it was a scam. Because
Right.
I've never gotten any financial involvement with the Geek Squad.
Right. And when in doubt, I would encourage everybody to do what you did. Go to Geek Squad or contact them and ask them to verify the legitimacy of the email. And they will tell you that it's a scam, it's not real, they're not billing you for anything.
And exactly. And it's, whether it's the Geek Squad or MD Anderson or, Mr. Joe's body shop for cars or whatever, it's the same scenario. If it's a potential scam, it probably is.
Right. That's true. Scammers have all these different ways of trying to manipulate. Their main goal is for you to get their trust. They want you to trust them. They want you to trust them, take every word that they say as true, and then eventually con you into giving up all your money in your bank account, either by buying gift cards or by being tricked into handing over your banking credentials.
Yeah. Definitely a scary situation, but what an incredible learning experience what I've just gone through. And all of the listeners tonight, watch out for the scams. They are everywhere.
That's true. I would like to close by making this final statement. These scams that are everywhere, they're all over social media, email, the ads you see on different websites, on TV. I hate to say it, but they are everywhere. You go on social media, there are companies pretending to be air duct cleaners. There's a scam related to air duct cleaning now where they pretend to be a company that's involved in said service, but then they just take your money and run with it. And Pleasant Green did a whole video about that. Then, of course, when you turn on your TV, there are all sorts of scams related to Medicare Advantage and life insurance policies, and these mainly target the elderly. Those make my blood boil because it just shows that there is an entire industry out there related to ripping off elderly people and bleeding them dry of their 401k and their savings. And I'm not going to talk any more about that because it makes me really mad just thinking about it. Swale, do you have any final statements that you would like to make before we close out?
Well, I think the number one lesson that I've learned is when something occurs and you start to feel that first inkling of panic, stop. That's when you need to just put the brakes on, rethink the situation before you act, and then you can make an accurate decision about what is your next step.
Very well said. I hope that everybody listening out there takes this advice. Swell knows exactly what he's talking about because he handled this situation perfectly. You did a wonderful job. You did a wonderful job handling it. You didn't give in to the scam. You didn't panic. And you're able to get clarification over how legitimate it was, which, as you discovered, it turned out to be a scam. Well, I'd like to thank you for joining me on the show today. This was a great episode, and I hope that all of our listeners have learned something from this episode. I hope everybody stays safe. If anybody has questions about what is a scam and what isn't, I encourage you to contact me. And I also encourage you to follow the different scam baiters on YouTube, such as Jim Browning and Pleasant Green. They've done a great job exposing these scams over the years, and they have a lot of videos on their channels explaining what they go through. They have actually saved victims in real time before, too. So, once again, thanks for joining me on the show, Swell. This was a great episode. Don't get scammed, everybody, and stay safe.